like to just take this opportunity to hear from you about some opportunities as we digest some of the brokenness. What is it, how is it you think that we can make best use of ICTs to online space, especially to enhance civic participation and access to information during the electoral cycle?
The first area I think would be in terms of how citizens are able to access information and demand accountability of key actors such as the IEBC. Information, as we all know, is absolutely crucial in terms of citizens being able to make informed choices in periods such as this where there are elections. But also transparency on the part of key actors such as the Interior Ministry, such as the IEBC, is also really, really crucial. So the ability of citizens to engage with these entities, ask questions, receive information, demand accountability is one that ICT delivers and which we should take advantage of. But the supply side of this also needs to be proactive in terms of these actors also proactively providing information to citizens very openly, very regularly in terms of how they are effecting their mandates.
Sarah Muyonga is the Public Policy Manager, Eastern Horn of Africa for Meta Platforms. And just looking at that role, I think we'd be interested to hear with regards to at least Kenya's elections, what resources has Meta set aside to mitigate disinformation in the country elections, a bit about measures in place to ensure that Facebook, let's say algorithms, but it's a whole system, but Facebook algorithms don't amplify hate speech in Kenya by promoting specific posts for engagement. Basically, we're wondering what's Meta's approach to do no harm, basically, during the Kenya election. So, Sarah.
So I'll start by saying that Meta takes very seriously what we see is our responsibility, especially in the context of election, to ensure that people do have an opportunity to engage in the electoral process, to engage in the civic process, to support a free and fair election process, and just to maybe more generally protect the integrity of the election. So what that means for us is that we, from a very global perspective, because we've been supporting a lot of activities and we have work streams across the world where we've had elections, our election work is sort of underpinned by 5 objectives. The first one is removing interference. We know in different contexts we've been accused. There's all the various stories around Cambridge Analytica, what happened in the US, and of course those are learnings and opportunities for learning for us. Voter interference, people trying to give fake information about even the voting day, for instance. So our systems, our efforts are to reduce that kind of context, that would do that. We also want to reduce misinformation that globally has been seen as a problematic area around the elections. We want to increase transparency. This is really linked to who is participating in the voting process, who's buying our ads, who is paying for it, especially for groups that are monitoring election funding, election spending. We have like an ad library where you can now go back up to 7 years and see who was running campaigns in a certain region, who funded those particular campaigns, because we ask for, there's a very vigorous verification process. We're not allowing people to pay from ads if they're not based in Kenya, for instance. And then we also want to promote civic engagement. We are working with various partners, working with the IBC, trying to, support campaigns that people are doing for people to participate in that electoral process, for people to come out and vote. So very soon you'll start seeing posters around voting days on this day, people who say I voted and that kind of thing. And then finally, we just want to keep people safe.
Now this brings us to think about electoral integrity. Electoral integrity it's really critical because it's really about public confidence in the process, in both the electoral process and in the political processes. And so we want to talk a bit about how ICTs can help with that. And to help us do that is Fiona Asonga. She's the CEO of TESPOK, Technology Service Providers of Kenya. They're an all-inclusive body that represents the interests of technology service providers in Kenya.
Is there anyone here not expecting to vote? Not out of choice. or out of you not having the permission, being allowed to vote. But as Kenyans, we are all expecting to go to the ballot on the 9th, right? And when we do that, I think one thing that comes out of that is because we are putting our confidence in the IEBC that they are going to honor their mandate and obligation and enable us to do that voting on the 9th. That is the beginning of our journey on matters integrity and election. Now, when they begin to bring on board technology, they also have a responsibility to make sure that that technology works. So far, we've used the technology for voter registration. It has not had issues. We have seen they're keeping track of that registration, and where there's been staff tampering with the voters' registers, they have found out that, they have acted on that, and I think some staff have been let go of. So we are seeing action. Those are the steps that build our confidence as the public. However, the most critical thing that they need to do to make us confident enough is share with the public how exactly, what else are they doing with the technology? You've read bits and pieces that are in the press, in the public domain. Nobody from IEBC has sat in any forum, anywhere, and explained to the public, this is how the system we bought last year is going to work. They say they've used it for the voter registration, which went smoothly. We are banking on that. And then what are the capabilities of the system? We do not know what its capabilities are. We are expecting them to share with us the capabilities and even give us a strategic plan. This first year we will do this. We will work on it. By the next election, it should be able to do this, so that we know we've gotten a system we are going to have for a long time. That kind of stability also builds confidence and builds trust. When we talk of issues of integrity, it now boils down to the people who are running the system. The basics of an IT class. You put garbage into a computer, it gives you garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. That is really the basic part of it. And that means then that at the end of the day, behind the technology, the people and the individuals who have to handle those systems are the carriers of the responsibility and mandate that builds confidence and public trust and gives the whole process the integrity it requires. Which means then that we do expect that on the 9th, when I go to vote, I have been able to check and verify where I'm supposed to vote, technology, using technology digitally. So then I know where I'm voting. I will appear at that location. I should be able to present myself with my national ID and be allowed to vote. Unfortunately, the voting process is still manual.
Fiona and Sarah, either of you could respond to this. We've seen instances where some countries in Africa try to control access to internet and media, especially during elections. Is this a necessary measure to take, in your opinion?
Thanks for the question, and it's good to hear I'm wise. I'm not normally referred to as wise. It's very interesting about misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. So a number of points. One is, are we getting fact-checking done? Again, is the fact-checking as influential and as consequential as the misinformation? I think that's a very, very first point. We've discovered if you've done anything around defamation, libel, that normally the apology, A, takes too long before it happens, and B, it's on page 3, not page 1.
Kind of own some of the platforms we use. So like the issue on the admins, as you said, like on WhatsApp group, you see maybe your speak being limited and only admins. Unfortunately, we don't have control over that. When you set up a group, you'll set up the admin. You have the choice to determine, do you want everyone to be the admin or not? Do you want to limit that? We do have a lot of education for admins so that they're aware that when they set up groups, there's a level of responsibility as to the kind of conversations that would happen in that group that could either be dangerous, harmful, and things like that. So sometimes you'll find admins who are trying to control what kind of happens in that setting, but it's not something we do behind the scene and stop. The few things we do behind the scene is maybe notify you if a message, the virality of a kind of message, if something has been shared so many times, we already flag, we limit sometimes how much you can share, how much you can broadcast, because WhatsApp is one of those platforms that people have flagged a lot. The fact that it's encrypted, there's the general worry of some people could be doing some activities or mobilizing for whatever reasons within those groups.
And the Ministry of ICT, the Ministry of Interior have come through severally and given us assurances that we're not going to shut down the internet in Kenya like it has happened in other countries. We're not going to shut down or bring down or block people from using the social media platforms. Our government leaders feel Kenya is a mature society, and they would like us to exercise decorum in how we behave, because it's in how you communicate. If we do have the support of the service providers, which include the likes of Meta here supporting us with what they do, and Google have the same for their platforms, and everyone else just being responsible online, really there is no reason for there to be a situation that warrants shutting down.
The citizens to give government the comfort to ever think of closing down the internet, but it's also crucial that we do not give them reason to think about it. I have lived under a total internet shutdown. It's as painful as being in a Kenyan jail 2 decades ago, which I also experienced. So we don't want to get to a level where we have networks disrupted.
We cannot do everything by ourselves. I constantly tell people that as Meta, we provide platforms, but the platforms are used by people who then also have to be responsible for their behaviors on the platforms. But even within the ecosystem, report, even if many say we don't have a snitching culture, but when you bring it to our attention, we are able to see how to address it, because the human habit, evolves every day. People change how they behave, how they want to communicate, what they want to do. So our teams have been working a lot to see how do we get ahead of any kind of problems